In this episode, we're going to talk about the manuals involved. And it depends on which learning group you're in, Group 1 or Group 2, which I will discuss in a minute. I have 4 manuals open here for us to use. I'm going to go right into the ignition manual, and I'm going to skip ahead to page 11, where I'm discussing Group 1 and Group 2. This manual is written as a standalone manual without using my PLC learning manuals for 500, 5000, or CCW. Group 1, they are beginners, individuals that are learning programmable logic controllers. They don't already know PLCs. If you don't know the PLC functions, how to program them, troubleshoot them, this is going to be a steeper learning path. This will involve the other 3 manuals, and you got a choice between 3 platforms. If you're in Group 2, then you have experiential knowledge of PLCs, and discussions about variables and tag names does not provoke anything but familiarity. We are not going to extensively cover finding, downloading, and installing any of the software. You're going to go to Inductive Automation main website, as you see here, and you're going to look for an orange button that says Download Ignition. And once you download Ignition, you're going to follow the steps, because this procedure ends up being a little bit different on different computers, so it's impossible to nail it down. And as things change, we're not going to go back and edit videos that might lead you in the wrong direction because something's changed. You'll go to Inductive Automation website, you're going to download Ignition and install it. And if along the way you have run into some problems, you could go to this page, which is the Ignition User Manual, and you can go to Getting Started. And there's a number of videos on the Inductive Automation website. As a matter of fact, once you download Ignition, when you go to install it, it's going to put up a guide right next to, on your right-hand side of your screen, to kind of guide you through the steps. You're going to end up with the gateway installed on your laptop or your desktop computer. And once it's installed, it's going to look something like this. Now, you see another button there up at the top corner. It says Get Designer. And then you see in the middle of the page, Get the Designer. Now, don't do any of these other download software until you've gotten through the basics. We're not going to download Prospective Workstation or Prospective Session Launcher at all during this course. But at some point towards the end, you would download the Vision Client Launcher. But for right now, sufficient to the day is the evil thereof. And once you get this installed, this is going to come up. This is your gateway browser, and you're going to have to, every 2 hours, reset the trial. So you see trial expired, 2 hours went by already. All you have to do is click on Reset Trial, and away you go. Now, what you're going to see when you click on Reset Trial, it's going to make you log in. Now, it may make us log in when I go to Config. I'm going to go to Config. I guess it didn't. Create a new device connection. And I already have these 3 device connections configured. If you want to create a new device, because right now you don't have any devices on your browser, your gateway. The legacy comes up by default. But actually, I'm going to use the Logix driver. See, it says firmware version 21 plus, because my L27 ERM is, I think I've got version 34 in it. Once you see the green bar and you see that your trial mode is counting down over here, you're ready to go as far as the gateway is concerned. The Ignition Gateway, that's what you're looking at. That's all you got is Ignition Gateway. You need to go get the designer. And once you get the designer, then you're going to see something else. Once you've downloaded and installed the designer, and then you open it, it's going to look like this, except I already have a designer added. So this would all be blank, and you'd go down the bottom and you would add designer, and you're going to fill out the information, and that's you. And later on, if you close this and you go back to it, you see there's another button that says Open Designer. That's really only going to be relevant if you've added more than one designer. Back to our ignition manual. We discussed group one. Remember, group one are the inexperienced learners who are going to learn PLCs simultaneously with HMI. And depending on where you're at in learning to work with PLCs, you may have already discovered, and if you haven't, you will shortly, that when you're looking at the ladder logic, if you're in what they call the online mode, you can toggle bits on and off in the PLC memory from your keyboard. We call it keyboard surfing. You would be working with one of these three sets of manuals. And most of the projects are in the first volume. You don't have to buy both volumes to get started. You could buy volume one of whatever one you're interested in. I will point out that because of the market, and it seems like the biggest learning challenges are with the connected components workbench, because it's the lowest price of these platforms. Actually, the orange and black, the 500 and Micrologics, that's not obsolete, but you don't see a lot of new machines hitting the shop floor with Micrologics in them. But there are millions of them installed out there that need to be integrated to HMIs. And it's easier to learn ladder logic diagrams, ladder logic programming, working with a PLC using MicroStarter Lite, which is free, or MicroStarter, which is not free. It's about $180 with a Micrologics controller. That is the least expensive, quickest way to learn ladder logic diagrams. That would be with volume one of the orange and black manual there. The Studio 5000, anything 5000, the software is not free. The least expensive version is $1,000, and that one only programs compact logics, and the hardware is more expensive. But you can come up with a used Micrologics for $200 or $300. You're not going to do that with a current model of anything that you use in the 5000 realm. The third platform there, Connected Components Workbench, you can actually learn to program Micro 800s totally free because the software is free and it has a really excellent simulator built into the software. Now, getting the simulator to work with ignition may be a real challenge. I could not get it to work with PanelView 800, and Alan Bradley could not as well. Just be warned that if you go the CCW route, learning to program with a simulator, you may not get it to connect to the gateway for ignition. Let's go to the oldest platform, which would be the 500, RS Logix 500, Micrologics 500 starter, 500 starter Lite. And this is the first project or location in the orange and black manuals that you would go to integrate with ignition. In this project, what you've done is you've downloaded a fresh project or a fresh program, if you will, into the controller, and you're online with it. And you notice on page 53 there, up there in the graphical user interface, you see kind of a cyan little rectangle, and it says remote program. If that is anything but black and white, that little rectangle, you're online. And if you go to the next page, you see that same rectangle. Now it says remote run. Not only are you online, you're in the run mode. Nonetheless, what we're doing here is we're having you open a scant project with Micrologics. This is a Micrologics 1400 that we're using here, but it could be any Micrologics. And we're examining the data table. We're examining all the tags that are available to you, and we're having you manipulate bits that are attached to inputs, outputs, and internal bits. And we're developing the experiential knowledge in you to understand the relationship between the graphical user interface called RS Logix 500 MicroStarter and the controller itself. Because when you're online, you are not displaying what's in the controller, but you have a data framework of what's in the controller offline, and you're animating it with the online values. Anything that you see change on the screen When you're in the online mode, the offline image is being animated by the data that's actually in the PLC. This is, in a case, your very first HMI. When you're online with your controller in the programming software, that is, in a sense, it's a human-machine interface, except that your controller is not actually operating cylinders and motors and what have you. In this particular product, you have very limited tags to work with. They're pre-declared variables. You cannot declare any variables in this product, the 500 Micrologics controllers. And then in the CCW, this is a different manual now. This is volume 1 of the CCW. On page 70, M1, explore your first project in Micro 800. It's the exact same thing that you would have done in the previous RSLogic 500 Micrologics, only the graphical user interface is drastically different. But in this project, in the CCW manual, to learn the controller, you are online with the project. It's a skinny project that you downloaded, and you're going in there and you're manipulating data from your keyboard. Again, it's keyboard surfing, but this time you're doing it in a Micro 800. You could be in RSLogic Studio 5000 Logix Designer. That's all the same thing, just different rev levels. And you're doing the exact same thing here. Now, we didn't title these lab projects in the 3 separate groups of manuals with the same name. In retrospect, I wish I had done that. But the orange and black ones for 500, I wrote those many years ago. And then I actually created what you're looking at now, the 5000, after that. And the CCW for Micro 800, that was the 3rd platform that I developed training manuals for. But if you look at this project on page 44, 45, and remember that these page numbers can change if I add more content to those manuals and it shifts the page number. But regardless, you'll still have a 07 accessing and editing data file values online and offline. When you're doing this project, you are at the point now in all 3 of these manuals, 5000, CCW Micro 800, or RSLogic 500 Micrologics. At this point, you're ready to go into some of the early projects in this manual.